If you want to be more efficient and effective while experiencing more inner peace, then working on the core of your issues instead of putting on a Band-Aid is vital. Welcome to Life Fix University podcast. I'm your host, Esty Rapport, and here to help you improve your 28 cognitive functions, the 28 things that make up thinking. In each episode, we'll discuss a real-life challenge, why you might be struggling with it, and give you practical strategies so all areas of your life will improve.
Are you quick to say things you wish you haven't? Or maybe you make decisions that later you regret. You wish you were less impulsive. What if I told you it was possible? That's what's coming up next in the Life Fix University podcast, episode 397. But first, if you're like, okay, I've heard about cognitive functions, I understand how it is affecting every single area of my life, I realize that it is actually the core to many of my issues, and I want to improve them so that I become more efficient, I become more effective, running my business is easier, and I think it's about time I saw the real issue. Then head over to lifepixuniversity.com/Your Brain Rewired. So that's LifePix, P-I-X, lifepixuniversity.com/Your Brain Rewired, because we're going to rewire your brain. The link for that will be in the show notes. For today's real life challenge, imagine you just made an impulse buy. Your excuse, it's for the business, but it's over $30K, and it's not really the right buy for right now. You might be struggling with impulsivity if you have the cognitive deficiency, a weak cognitive function of showing impulsivity behavior. Yup, being impulsive is actually a weak cognitive function. The big debate or conversation I like around this is impulsivity is an action. So how is that related to thinking? Professor Ruben Feuerstein, the one that identified the 28 cognitive functions, obviously it was highly related to thinking. And I think if you think about it, you will also. The act of thinking, or rather the lack of thinking, tends to lead to impulsivity. And that is what we're working on. The lack of a thought process that happens leading to impulsivity behavior. Actually doing it is an action versus not so much a thinking thing, but you need a thinking in order to do the action. Before we get into 5 ways to reduce your impulsivity, we want to understand, or I think that maybe you even would know this already, technology has wired us to be impulsive, everything fast, everything now, everything has to happen us. So I'm just going to put that out there. You decide more or less. I'm not here to get into your life. I know that makes it a lot. There's a lot of it in the decision, and I don't think we can just run away from technology because it is here to stay. But it is something to keep in mind. Ready? 5 ways to reduce your impulsivity. So I'm going to start with my favorite way, my absolute favorite way to reduce impulsivity, because it has the highest results. It's like clear night and day. What actually happens is it is actually changing how your brain is thinking from a very thinking neuro perspective. And that way is to improve your sense of touch. Yes, we spoke about it last week in episode 396. And there we spoke about improving your sense of touch and how it's related with your ability to focus, because it is in the same part of your brain. By taking away your eyesight and doing things blindfolded, you are improving your sense of touch, which automatically improves your sense of focusing. The whole science behind how that works and how to actually do it is in last week's episode 396. So you can check that out. Now, the reason why it works so well with impulsivity also is because when you are blindfolded and you are developing this new skill of touch, you are forcing yourself to slow down. It is impossible to do things blindfolded fast. Have you ever tried? Right? Like, what happens when power goes out before you could find your flashlight? Like, you might be panicking and be moving around quick, but you're not actually doing anything quickly because our brains, that part of our brains are just not developed. So this helps you automatically slow down, right? We want to do anything that is going to train our brain to do things a little bit slower. So that way, when we do have these impulsiveness, our brain already has developed the muscle of going slow and stopping and thinking. Does that make sense? Yeah. Good. So it brings us to our second point, doing challenging tasks that require you to slow down and figure out the answer. So sometimes we have this in business and we need everything quick, 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 quick. But if we could maybe say like, hey, actually, you know what? I'm starting this new project or I'm learning this new skill and I'm doing this new challenging thing. I am purposely going to do it slowly so that way I can practice this muscle. Another fun way to do it is to do it together with like brain games such as chess, chocolate fix, rush hour, any of the brain games, the games that aren't just luck, but actually use strategies. Also, you have to force yourself to slow down. That helps your brain develop this muscle. Now, the third thing is more, not so much of a doing thing, but of an understanding thing. Okay. Because I don't know about you, when I understand things, it makes it easier for me to do it. So I like to think of it like this. I am slowing down now so I can speed up later, right? So even though I like quick, I like fast, I like efficient, I know that sometimes it's better for me to slow down now because later I'll be going way faster, way better, more efficiently, way more effectively than other people. So when I remember that, it is easier for me to slow down in certain situations. Obviously, we still have that impulsivity, and that's why we need to develop that skill, but just understanding makes it easier. Next, number 4, this is like to prevent the impulsivity acts that like happen, such as like the impulse buy, or especially situations where you tend to act impulsive. I don't know if it's around certain people, you tend to say impulsive things, or when you're in certain situations. If you have a strategy before you even enter the situation, before you open up your laptop, before you go into the store, before you start speaking to the person, you have a strategy of how you're going to attack the situation, it is way more likely you are going to be less impulsive. There's actually been research that if you have a strategy before you take a test, you're going to get a higher score mark. It's the same type of thing. Like when you have a strategy before you come in, you're more prepared, your brain knows what to do, and will actually be more likely behave in the way that you've planned on. Now, I cannot end without saying the motto of the Feuerstein method. Professor Feuerstein believed in this so much. Remember, he's the one that identified the 20 cognitive functions. Everything I'm saying rooted in what he is saying. And he put on every single one of his booklets, like the brain exercise booklets that we work with clients on every single booklet, he put the motto of just a moment, let me think, or short, stop and think. If you've been through Your Brain Rewired, then you know exactly that. Like, just a moment, let me think. I will say all the time because we are in such a fast-paced world. We need to give ourselves spaces and times where it is okay to just stop and think. Maybe if you could either just remind yourself of this stopping and thinking as often as you could, hang it up on a sign somewhere near your desk, or if you could create a certain time of your day where that is the time you're focusing on stopping and thinking, maybe by dinner, or when you're doing homework with the kids, or when you are doing your team meetings. You know what? When you say we are having these team meetings, anyways, they take us 20 minutes every morning. These are times we are going to stop and think, and we are not going to keep it all rushed. In this episode, we spoke about thinking before an impulse act, or rather the lack of thinking before an impulse act is a cognitive function of thinking skill. We spoke about 5 ways to help you get better at it. Number 1 is doing things blindfolded, because you're automatically going to force your brain to slow down. Number 2 is doing challenging tasks where you have to slow down and develop that muscle. This includes doing brain games. Number 3 is understanding that we are slowing down now so we can speed up later. Number 4 is having a strategy before you actually start. And number 5 is remember stopping and thinking, and maybe even creating a time in your day where you can stop and think. You're challenged to choose one of the 5 things we spoke about and begin implementing it today. Impulsivity is from my experience, impulsivity is one of the longest cognitive functions that actually take to implement, but you can get there. A good way to speed it up is doing the brain exercises specifically that we use when I work with clients with created forcing method. Those were created. One of the reasons to help us slow down. If you want to know more about that, you could head over to lifefixuniversity.com/your brain rewired. Brain exercises, yes, made to help you slow down, but it does take time. So don't give up. Do these things every single day. And if you want to go deeper into doing things blindfolded and how it helps you focus and how it helps you reduce your impulsivity, you want to go to last week's episode 396, listen to it and implement what it says inside there. I'm super excited for some changes that are coming on up. We have a lot of exciting things happening by episode 400. So stay tuned. Have an awesome rest of your day and grow those dendrites.
That's all for this episode of the Life Fix University podcast. If you enjoyed it, please share it with 2 of your family and friends so they too can gain from it, and you'll be helping us reach our goal of 1 million downloads by the end of 2025. Have an awesome rest of your day and grow those dendrites.